guest is Congresswoman Yvette Herrell with us on the phone. Is that you?
It is me.
Yay. Well, thank you so much. We are on the air. I have to make that announcement. How are things
I'm so glad to be on with you this morning.
Yeah, I know you've been super busy, and things are kind of crazy in D.C. as they are around the rest of the country right now. And I know we've got just a limited amount of time. Let me ask you this, since this is a big part of your district. Price of gas, price of oil through the roof. People are really having to pay at the pump. I have a diesel truck, so you can imagine what I got.
You're probably not pulling away from the gas station without spending at least $100.
At least. I got so excited. I was in Roswell the other day, and it was $5.12, which was less than the $5.49 that it was in Artesia. And I said, I don't care. I'm filling up. And it was still $80. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's sad when now we're looking for the $5.50, $5.60 type, gas or diesel, like you found $5.12, and that's a bargain when it doesn't need to be that way. And of course, you and I've talked about this before. This war by this administration on our energy independence has created so much of this, and now, of course, it's compounded with the Ukraine situation, with the supply and demand, with supply being held up in China. And what's very frightening to me, Jean, is I believe it's today that we will be voting on this quote-unquote price gouging bill. So this is the administration's solution to cap how much gas can sell for at the gas stations. And here's what I want to make sure I say and everybody hears. This is so dangerous. Not only does it impede on free markets and the ability for our producers to have some stability in the marketplace and to understand their investments will actually have a return. But my concern is if they think capping the price of gas is going to be the end-all be-all, what happens when they start rationing it? I mean, to me, this is the camel's nose under the tent for flat-out socialism. When you start capping prices, then I think the next step is to start telling people what their ration will be. And obviously, I believe it will not just stop at fuel. I think it goes beyond that. And yet, we have the resources here. We have the capability here. But we are hamstringing this industry from doing what they do best in terms of providing the nation the energy it needs. And this is a very frightening time for these policies. And, of course, this one-party rule, we can see for the last 18 months, nothing they have done has worked, and the American people are paying for it.
What is the mood of the Congress to support this? Because it really is close. The Democrats don't have much of a majority in the House. They do have the majority, but they don't. What's the mood of the Congress? Is there a lot of support for this? Because this didn't work for Nixon.
Right.
And instead of encouraging local domestic production, we're buying oil from Venezuela, or we're trying to get the Arabs to return Biden's phone call. So what is the mood of the Congress to support something like this?
Well, sadly, I think it goes to the House on a party line vote, just because they do have that additional few votes, if you will, that 5 or 6 votes that'll push it across the line. My hope is that the Senate will stop this. Like you said, it hasn't worked in the past, so there's a good indication it won't. But in fact, there should be an op-ed. It may have dropped yesterday or today coming out in New Mexico. And, we're trying to say, you're punishing already the producers. Now you're punishing the middleman, if you will, the gas stations that are actually just bringing the product to the consumer. But no one's talking about when they start doing this, it impacts the jobs, the cashier, the guy who changes the oil, the people that these middle tier companies employ. And here we have a labor shortage all over the nation. But this is just, again, another failed attempt for this administration to sound like they're doing something good. And certainly to the person who's really not able to make ends meet and thinking, okay, I know I won't have to pay more than, $5.25 a gallon or whatever the cap is. But the bigger problem that we're creating is more unintended consequences, and then really disrupting the entire market. And it's kind of like the food, and I know you already know this. Farmers don't set the price. on their commodities. I mean, this is very market driven. There are so many variables that put a marketplace value on foods and goods and services. So to really vilify those that are either selling oil and gas, those that are producing oil and gas, it just tells you how out of touch this administration is with reality. And the reality is where you and I live, where we live, and we're having to deal with all these failed policies.
It is crazy. It's kind of like the student loan forgiveness concept. Nobody talks about what the universities are charging for education. It's all, we've got to waive the loans. People can't afford to go to college. We've got to do this. But as long as the government keeps backing and pumping money into the education payment process, there's not any pressure on the universities to control the costs. Let me ask you this. I know border issues are really important to you, and we basically have an open border right now. And is there a connection between the open border and the baby formula shortage? Have you been able to verify or confirm that maybe part of the reason there's no baby formula on the shelves for American citizens is because the government has bought it all up and it's sitting on pallets waiting for all of the millions of people coming up through the southern border?
Well, that's a pretty loaded question, so let me give you a couple of answers.
Okay.
The problem with Abbott, which is the manufacturer of over 40% of our baby formulas, the whistleblower came forward in October 2021. So this shortage was going to happen in terms of this particular producer because they already knew there were problems with the sanitary conditions, et cetera. They were already having problems. So this administration and FDA knew back in October that there was going to be a real potential for this manufacturer to shut down. They made no plans, no backup plan. They didn't have a plan B. They knew this was going to put pressure on the marketplace and put a real strain on being able to have a product available, the baby formulas. So that is one piece of it. And, of course, we've written letters to the administration and the FDA saying, what are you going to do? They've supposedly gone back into look at this plant again, may let it open on an emergency type basis. But again, it's just they're not even thinking about how this impacts the American people. But it is true that there are pallets of formula being hoarded, if you will, down in different places close to the border because they know when Title 42 goes away, they are going to have to continue to treat these people who are coming here illegally better than the American people, and so they are hoarding some of it. Now, I was asked yesterday on OAN News, did I think that there was enough being hoarded or held in these facilities, where they're going to be housing some of these illegals, that would change the makeup, the market, the shelf space? Would it really put a dent in the need now that our American moms and dads are facing? I'm not so sure there's that much, but it's not about that, Gene. It's the principle.
Sure.
The very fact that we live in the United States of America and families cannot now get to the store to find formula, or I'm seeing stories, hearing stories, people are driving, all day long to go and get, 2 or 3 cans or containers because now everybody's limited on how much they can purchase. So the very fact that we would put the American people second, and that's what's been happening for over a year, whether it's energy, this porous border, this economy, the inflation, gas prices, all of these things, it is certainly setting the message of it's America's second. And that's what I think people are tired of. They're ready for solid conversations and decisions that will actually rebuild our economy, put our border. I mean, the concern about the border is, that Title 42 is supposed to go away next Tuesday. I will be on our southern border on Monday, just because it's frightening to think that we are going to see such a huge uptick. And then, of course, we can go right into the entire fentanyl situation where the money being made by the cartel. China is sitting back just letting the cartel make the fentanyl, send it across. I mean, everybody's benefiting except the American people. And to me, that is so wrong in the way that we've addressed everything, or this administration and this Democratic-controlled Congress has addressed the problems before us.
It's interesting on the baby formula shortage. So what you're saying is it's a combination of factors the government
Yeah.
is involved in every single one of those factors. I'm surprised that they're, and I don't know anything about this, but I'm surprised that with the problems with Abbott, that
Yeah.
somebody else didn't step up and say, well, we're going to convert one of our factories, or maybe that's not easy to do. It'll be interesting to see, because the president, I think yesterday, invoked the War Powers Act to start getting more baby formula produced. It'll be interesting to see what the impact of that will be. What has Congress been told about that? What impact will that have, if any?
Right, and then we just kind of don't know. And of course, that is one of the reasons why we wrote the letter to the FDA. I mean, it's absolutely poor planning and not thinking ahead, knowing that they knew in October last year there was a real potential for a shutdown with this particular plant. So they wait, it doesn't shut down until after the first year. But in the meantime, you're exactly right. They made no, backup plan. They, as far as we understand, they made no contact with other producers to say, okay, we're going to need to shore up this, this shortage of this formula that we're going to need. And I mean, it's just poor planning, because we just jump from one dumpster fire to the next, every single day up here. There's no closure. There's no benefit to the American people when you're not making solid decisions. And then it's a knee jerk. I think they should put those little stickers that say, I did this, all over these empty shelves. I think they should put them on the baby formula shelves, because all of this lies in the lap of this administration for failing to take action, especially, like I said, it's one thing if it was just happened last week. But when you realize they've had months to figure this out, make a backup plan, start deciding how they're going to address the shortage, and then to find out that they are hoarding some of this formula, and I don't know how many pallets, but I mean, it's pallets. I don't know if it would actually address all the shortages nationwide for the families that are needing this formula, but certainly it would help. But certainly it's the principle of it, and that's what's unfortunate. And again, all these things are so glaring where I think Americans are going, wait a minute, we're tired of being treated like second-class citizens. This is our taxpayer dollars that are paying for all these crises, the housing and the feeding and the medication and all of these things for the illegals. We're paying for that. The taxpayer dollar is going to all of this, and even the aid to Ukraine. And I mean, at what point do we say, hey, we have homeless veterans, we have families that are struggling, we have challenges of our own in our own country that we should be addressing first and foremost, make ourselves stronger than anybody else so that we can be a useful force and a good ally to our neighboring countries like Israel or, the countries that we are allies with. But we don't do that, and everybody's going to start feeding on our weakness. I mean, look what Putin has done. They watched the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. They saw that we had a weak leader, and here we are.
Yeah. Too bad we couldn't have taken the weapons we had in Afghanistan and transferred those to Ukraine. But it does seem like the rest of the world, and maybe we just don't hear it because the media is so poor in this country, but it does seem like the only people that are supplying arms to the Ukrainians is the United States, and I can't believe that that's true. I have to think that there's other countries that are at least thinking about helping, but it always seems that it's us that's doing that. We have just a couple of minutes left. Is there anything else, any other topic that you want to make sure you share with folks today?
Well, I'm excited I'm in D.C. now, and of course we're going to be on a recess for the next 2 weeks after we do votes this afternoon, which is, a good thing for the American people, because anytime we're not meeting and convening on the U.S. House floor is a good day for America, because that means we're not passing some crazy bill.
Thank you.
So I'm very excited to be back. You're right. I'll be all over the district. I'm going to be back just as soon as we hang up. I'm meeting with the chief of the U.S. Forest Service, because as you know, we are plagued with not only wildfires, but we have the issue with the water rights up on the Goss Ranch there up by Mayhill and Weed.
Mm-hmm.
We have just a number of problems, and he's actually going to do a joint update on some of the wildfire mitigation and what's happening. So of course we'll attend that, but we're actually meeting with him prior to the update to Congress, and I just am very excited about the opportunity to visit with him and another thing that we are pushing them on is why do they continue to do control, quote unquote, burns in the middle of the windiest season in our, in our state, in this arid conditions, and that's what has caused, I believe, the fire up by Mora.
Right.
And so we want some accountability there. So we're absolutely going to be talking to them about that. So it's, it's a good day to be able to be the voice for New Mexico here, because we have an opportunity to get right in front of one of the main people who can help us navigate some of these challenges. So that'll be good. And then I'll just be, like I said, all over the district. I'm bringing a group of legislators, a congressman, down to Hobbs first part of June to go out on a rig. I'll be up in Albuquerque some, and just all over the district. So, and I'm blessed I don't have a primary, but certainly we'll be talking about the needs of the people and listening and campaigning some too.
Very good, very good. Congresswoman Yvette Herrell, good luck in your meeting coming up. I hope you get some good answers and can help the folks out and keep fighting the good fight for us out there in Washington, D.C.
Will do, and you have a very blessed weekend.
Thank you so much. I've got a full tank of fuel now, so I think I should be okay.
Okay, well don't go anywhere. No, I'm just kidding. Okay.
All right.
I'll talk to you later.
All right, thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, that's Congresswoman Yvette Herrell, and we appreciate her time. As you heard, she's getting ready to go into an important meeting, talking with some of the Forest Service folks and get some answers on some of those issues. Let's go ahead and take our